While the average American stresses over saving $5 out of every 100, an entire country of 1.4 billion people is quietly putting away 36, not 5, 36. And here's what nobody tells you. They're not earning more. They're not suffering more. They're just running a completely different mental operating system. And by the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly how it works and why you've never been taught this before. I'm Yash, and I've spent way too much time digging into why China's household savings rate consistently sits between 35 and 45%, while the US personal savings rate has hovered around 3 to 5% for most of the last decade. What I found wasn't about discipline, it wasn't about deprivation, it was about 6 specific shifts in how you think about money. Shifts that most personal finance content completely ignores because they don't sell courses or credit cards. This is education based on research and my own experience, not personal financial advice. Your situation is yours, but the framework, that's universal. Here's the question I want you to hold in your head for this entire video. If two people earn the exact same income, live in the same city, and one retires with $1.3 million and the other retires with $123,000, what's the actual difference between them? Not luck, not talent. The answer is coming, but first you need to understand the rule that changes everything. It's called the 10 to 1 rule. For every 10 units you earn, you spend 1 and save 9. Now, before you close the tab, stay with me, because nobody is saying you need to live on 10% of your income. The entire brilliance of this rule is that it's an aim, not a law. When you aim for 90%, you land at 50. When you aim for 50%, you land at 20. When you aim for whatever feels comfortable, you land at 3. The target is deliberately extreme, so your floor stays high. That's the first insight almost every personal finance creator misses. The 10 to 1 rule isn't about achieving 90%. It's about using an extreme anchor so that 40% feels like a compromise instead of a punishment. Think about how you currently handle your paycheck. You earn it, pay your bills, spend on what you need and want, and then, if there's anything left, you call that savings. This is called pay yourself last budgeting, and it's the financial equivalent of eating dessert first and hoping there's room for vegetables. The average American following this system saves 3.8%, not because they're irresponsible, because the system is designed to consume everything before savings ever gets a turn. Zero-based budgeting flips this completely. Before your paycheck arrives, every dollar already has a job. Savings is line 1, not line 9 after Netflix and groceries, line 1. You decide in advance, this much goes to savings, this much covers rent, this much covers food, and nothing gets spent that hasn't been pre-approved by your future self. Research consistently shows that people who pre-commit savings before spending happens save 2 to 3 times more than those who save whatever's left over. The math is simple and brutal. When savings competes with spending, spending wins every time. When savings is mandatory before spending begins, savings wins by default. Now here's the part that most personal finance content completely skips over. The reason this system actually works for hundreds of millions of people isn't discipline or willpower, it's culture. Specifically, it's a concept called mianzi, face, status. In Western culture, status is communicated through spending. What you wear, what you drive, where you vacation, what your apartment looks like. Consumption is the signal. But here's the uncomfortable truth. In China, the cultural status signal runs in the exact opposite direction. Wealth accumulation is the flex, not wealth display. Savings is a source of pride in a way that is genuinely foreign to how most Western consumers have been conditioned to think. Meet Wang. She's 32. She saves approximately 90% of her salary. She doesn't have the newest phone, she doesn't drive, she packs her lunch every single day, and she owns 2 apartments. In her social circle, that's not considered deprivation, that's winning. Now, I'm not saying everyone in China lives this way. There's obviously a massive and growing consumer class, but the cultural default, baseline assumption about what a responsible adult does with money sits at a fundamentally different starting point. And here's what that means for you. Your spending behavior is not just about your personal choices, it's about what your environment tells you is normal. If everyone around you is financing cars and carrying credit card debt to signal status, then saving 40% feels like punishment. If your environment reframes savings as the real flex, the entire equation shifts. Stop. What I'm about to say is the most important thing in this video. The reason saving feels like a sacrifice to you is because your culture told you it was. That is not your personality. That is not your math. That is marketing that has been running on you since you were 8 years old. Every advertisement you have ever seen was engineered to make spending feel like self-expression and saving feel like deprivation. The finance industry, the retail industry, the advertising industry, they all profit when your savings rate stays at 3%. Think about why no major brand has ever run a campaign telling you to save more money. Think hard about whose interests your current habits are actually serving. Now, here's what you do with all of this. 6 steps. Let's go. Step 1. Find your real savings rate right now. Take what you saved last month, divide it by your take-home income, multiply by 100. If it's under 10%, you're in the majority. This isn't a judgment, it's a baseline. You can't change a number you've never looked at. Step 2. Set your anchor at double your current rate, not your comfortable rate. If you're saving 5%, your new target is not 7, it's 10 minimum. Comfortable targets produce comfortable results. Research from behavioral economics consistently shows we overestimate the discomfort of spending less. The pain you're imagining at 10% is bigger in your head than it will ever be in your actual life. Adaptation happens faster than you expect. Step 3. Execute zero-based budgeting before the month begins. Before you spend a single dollar, write down your income and assign every dollar a category. Savings first, non-negotiable second, rent, utilities, minimum debt payments. Everything else third. If the math doesn't work, you cut from the everything else column, not from savings, never from savings. Step 4. Run the needs versus wants audit. For every recurring expense in your life, ask 2 questions. First, if this disappeared tomorrow, would my physical safety, health, or ability to earn income be seriously at risk? If yes, it's a need. If no, ask the second question. Am I actually buying this thing, or am I buying the identity I think it gives me? Because the marketing machine has been incredibly effective at disguising wants as needs. Your streaming subscriptions are not needs. Your car payment on a vehicle that costs more than 10% of your annual income almost certainly isn't either. Most people doing this audit honestly discover that 20 to 30% of their monthly spending goes toward things they never consciously chose to prioritize. It was chosen for them by advertising. Step 5. Break the money secrecy habit. In many Chinese family structures, financial information is shared openly. Parents know what children earn, siblings discuss savings rates. There's a collective accountability that Western individualism systematically destroys. 78% of Americans say they find it easier to discuss their mental health than their personal finances, and that secrecy is quietly costing you. When money stays hidden, bad habits stay hidden with it. Find one person, a friend, a sibling, someone you actually trust, and share your savings rate with them. Not your net worth, not your full debt picture, just your savings rate. Accountability doesn't require full disclosure, it just requires one witness. Step 6. Turn it into a game. Start a savings rate tracker. A simple spreadsheet, a whiteboard, even a note on your phone. Your only job for the next 30 days is to beat last month's number by any amount. 1% counts. Behavioral economics call this progress motivation. We are significantly more likely to maintain habits when we can visibly see improvement happening. The Chinese households, consistently reporting the highest savings rates, aren't grinding through willpower every day. They have turned savings optimization into a source of pride, a personal competition,
a sport. You can do exactly the same thing with nothing more than a number you track and one person who knows what it is.
Now here's the math I promised you at the beginning. Someone saving 40% of a $60,000 income is putting away $24,000 per year. At a historically average market return of around 10% annually, and past performance never guarantees future results, but the S&P 500's long-run average is approximately that. $24,000 a year becomes roughly $1.3 million in 20 years. Someone saving the American average of 3.8% on the exact same income is saving $2,280 a year. That's $123,000 over the same 20 years. Same income, same market, same city. The only variable is the operating system running in the background every single time a paycheck arrives. That's your answer. That's the difference between those two people I asked you about at the start. Wang, at 32 with 2 apartments, isn't deprived. She's not suffering. She's operating on a different system. And now you understand exactly how that system works. The 10-to-1 rule isn't a ceiling you have to hit. It's a direction you commit to. And that direction, held consistently over time, is the difference between spending your whole life working for money and eventually having money work for you. You don't need to save 90% this month. You need to save more than you saved last month. That's it. Then more the month after. Small shifts, compounded over time, are how ordinary incomes build extraordinary outcomes. If this shifted how you think about money even slightly, share it with one person in your life who needs to hear it. Not for the views, because the people around you shape what feels normal to you. And the more people in your circle running a better system, the easier it becomes for you to run one too. See you in the next one.